Claude Walter Lionel Baily, born 1902, was an accomplished engine designer long before he joined Jaguar. He began as an apprentice at the Anzani Aero Engine Company and later worked at Morris Motors in the 1930s, where he earned a reputation for sorting out troublesome engines. For example, in 1937, he successfully transformed a underperforming 1.3-litre side-valve Morris engine into a robust short-stroke overhead valve unit by strengthening its internals, improving breathing and shortening its stroke. This improved Morris X-Series engine proved reliable and was produced into the 1950s, foreshadowing the excellence Claude Baily would soon bring to Jaguar. Baily joined the SS Jaguar drawing office during World War II, around 1940, and immediately became central to Jaguar's ambitious new engine program. In fact, he was put in charge of Jaguar's engine design and development efforts by 1940. Working alongside company founder William Lyons and engineering chief William Bill Haynes, Baily spent long wartime nights in Coventry fire-watching and brainstorming the design of an all-new dual-overhead cam engine for Jaguar's post-war cars. Lyons insisted the new engine be powerful, at least 160 brake horsepower, durable and refined, and also visually impressive, a challenge Baily eagerly embraced. By 1945, Baily, together with Haynes and fellow engineer Walter "Wally" Hassan, had developed and tested prototype multi-cylinder engines, proving out concepts that would shape Jaguar's future. His leadership in this period was formalized when he was appointed chief designer at Jaguar Cars in 1948. Architect of the XK twin-cam engine. One of Baily's first great achievements at Jaguar was his pivotal role in creating the Jaguar XK engine, the twin-cam inline-six that debuted in 1948. Often called the XK six-cylinder masterpiece. This engine powered Jaguar's sports cars and saloons for over 4 decades. Baily was one of the core architects of the XK design. Together with Bill Haynes, Jaguar's engineering director, and Wally Hassan, he laid down the XK's basic architecture during those late-night World War II design sessions. They concluded that hemispherical combustion chambers with opposed valves actuated by dual overhead cams would yield the high breathing and power output Jaguar needed. Baily applied his deep engineering knowledge to ensure the XK engine met Lyons's demands for performance and reliability, conducting extensive single-cylinder tests and even fitting prototypes into mule vehicles during development. When the 3.4-litre XK6 finally launched in the Jaguar XK 120 sports car, it was a sensation, producing 160 brake horsepower and powering Jaguar to sensational speed and race victories. The XK engine, in various displacements, went on to dominate, winning Le Mans 5 times: 1951, 1953, 1955-57 in the C-type and D-type races. Although names like Haynes and Lyons became publicly associated with these triumphs, behind the scenes Baily's engineering acumen was crucial in turning the XK engine into a world beater. He continued to refine the XK through the 1950s, overseeing increases to 3.8 litres and 4.2 litres, improved heads, and the adoption of fuel injection in racing cars, to keep Jaguar ahead of the competition. His close collaboration with famed cylinder head specialist Harry Westlake helped optimize the XK's valve gear and combustion, a partnership that Jaguar leveraged on every engine up to and including the V12. Baily's quiet expertise ensured that Jaguar's straight six remained both powerful and bulletproof, giving the company grace, space, and pace throughout the 1950s. Conceiving Jaguar's first V12. Even as the XK engine was achieving success, Baily was already looking ahead to Jaguar's next leap in power, a V12 engine. Remarkably, he began contemplating a V12 as early as the late 1940s. By 1951, Baily had produced initial designs for a 60-degree V12, intended for a future Le Mans racer and high-end Jaguars. His original concept was an 8-litre double overhead cam V12 that essentially mirrored two XK six-cylinder heads on a common crankcase. This enormous engine design shared bore spacing and valve train geometry with the XK, aiming for a high redline and prodigious power. When Jaguar withdrew from factory racing after 1956, Baily didn't abandon the V12 dream. He refined it. Throughout the late 1950s, he sketched out a whole family of V12 variants for different purposes. In a memo to Bill Haynes in 1960, Baily proposed a range of V12 displacements from 5.0 litres up to about 7.6 litres to suit various Jaguar models. This forward-thinking, possible future range plan shows Baily's strategic vision. He recognized that Jaguar's growing saloons and the desire to return to racing might eventually demand more cylinders. His persistence paid off. In 1962, Jaguar's management gave the formal go-ahead to resurrect the V12 project, focusing on a more practical 5.0-litre size as a starting point. Baily settled on a 5.0-litre, 4,998 cubic centimetres, design with an 87mm bore and 70mm stroke, dimensions derived from Jaguar's existing engines. By February 1964, he had built and run prototype V12s on the testbed, an incredible milestone more than a half-decade before Jaguar's first V12 car would appear. The XJ13 quad-cam V12 prototype, the culmination of Baily's V12 development, was the engine built for the Jaguar XJ13, a prototype Le Mans racer. Under Claude Baily's direction, Jaguar's engineering teams began in 1964 to construct this advanced V12, known internally as Project XJ6, not to be confused with the later car. The XJ13 was to be a mid-engined sports prototype, and Baily's 5.0-litre V12 would sit at its heart. He led a small team, including contributions from Bill Haynes and Wally Hassan, to turn the long-gestating V12 concept into a race-ready power plant. The result was an engineering tour de force for its era, a 502 brake horsepower, quad-cam V12 that was as exotic as anything from Ferrari, yet rooted in Jaguar's own heritage. The Jaguar quad-cam, 5.0-litre V12 engine developed under Baily's direction for the XJ13 prototype in the mid-1960s featured dual overhead cams per bank. This advanced racing V12 used an all-aluminium construction and novel fuel injection to produce over 500 bhp. Key technical features of Baily's XJ13 engine included architecture. 60 degrees V12, all-aluminium block and heads, with 4 overhead camshafts operating 2 valves per cylinder. This design was essentially 2 XK6s on a common crankshaft. Though Baily optimized the valve angles, port layout and combustion chambers for the V12 configuration. Dimensions. Displacement of 4,994 cubic centimetres achieved via an 87mm bore by 70mm stroke. A dry sump lubrication system was used to prevent oil starvation under racing conditions, with an external oil tank, essential for the mid-engine layout and high cornering loads. Induction and ignition. Initially fitted with 6 SU side draft carburetors, 3 per cylinder bank, the V12 produced about 445 brake horsepower at 7,000 revolutions per minute in this form. Baily later upgraded it to a Lucas mechanical fuel injection system, which boosted output to roughly 502 to 503 brake horsepower at 7,600 RPM. Peak torque was around 382 pound-feet or 518 newton-meters at 6,300 revolutions per minute. The engine also featured the new Lucas Opus electronic ignition for reliable high-speed spark timing and ran a high 10.4:1 compression ratio, reflecting its competition intent. Cam drive and valve train. Baily experimented with both gear-driven and chain-driven camshaft drives on the quad-cam heads. Most of the development engines used duplex chain-driven cams for simplicity and durability. A gear drive system was tested on one engine much later, But during the 1960s, development on all XJ13 engines ran chain-driven camshafts. The valve train proved capable of sustained high RPM. Test engines safely revved to 8,000 RPM, an impressive figure for a 5-litre engine in the 1960s. Baily's V12 was cutting-edge and powerful, but it was also complex. Developing it posed challenges in timing, drive reliability, fuel metering, and cooling, all of which Jaguar's team tackled under his guidance. The XJ13's mid-engine chassis, designed by Derek White and aerodynamicist Malcolm Sayer, was built around Baily's V12 and a 5-speed ZF transaxle. In testing, the only XJ13 built proved the effectiveness of Baily's engine. In 1967, it lapped the Myra track at over 161 miles per hour, 259 kilometers per hour, in the hands of David Hobbs, an unofficial record at the time. Observers noted how smooth and ferocious the new V12 was, a testament to Baily's meticulous engineering. Unfortunately, the XJ13 project was ill-fated. By 1966, Le Mans rules had changed to limit prototype engines to 3 litres, and Jaguar's focus shifted to launching the road-going XJ6 saloon. Thus, the XJ13 never raced. The lone prototype was mothballed after 1967, meaning Baily's masterpiece V12 did not get to prove itself in competition. Nonetheless, the quad-cam V12 project was hugely valuable. Jaguar built a total of 6 of these prototype V12 engines, plus 1 experimental V8 derived from the V12, during the program. 3 of the V12s were installed in cars, 1 in the XJ13, others tested in sedan mules, while others ran on test beds. Baily even had one 5.0-litre V12 fitted into a large Mark X sedan for road testing. It accumulated nearly 35,000 miles as a development mule, helping Jaguar assess the engine's behavior in real-world conditions. This rigorous testing regime underscored Baily's focus on reliability and drivability, even for a racing power plant. Many years later, several of these very prototype engines survived in storage and have been restored by enthusiasts, a testament to the soundness of Baily's design. From prototype to production, transition to the Jaguar V12. While the XJ13's racing career ended before it began, Claude Baily's V12 lived on by directly influencing Jaguar's first production V12 engine. In the late 1960s, as Jaguar prepared to use a V12 for its road cars, the company brought in additional expertise. Jaguar had acquired Coventry Climax, and with it, engineers Wally Hassan and Harry Mundy, in 1963. Under William Haynes's direction, Baily's double-overhead cam V12 design was reworked by Hassan and Mundy into a tamer single-overhead cam version suitable for production and mass production emission standards. In essence, Baily provided the foundation. The block, bottom end, and general V12 configuration. And the subsequent team refined the top end and ancillaries for the showroom. The production Jaguar V12, first launched in the 1971 E-Type Series 3, retained the 60-degree aluminum block architecture that Baily had developed. However, Hassan and Mundy designed simpler single-cam heads in place of Baily's quad-cam setup. The new cylinder heads had 1 overhead camshaft per bank, operating 2 slightly inclined valves per cylinder via bucket tappets, a design inspired in part by the 4-cylinder Rover 2000 engine. Jaguar also adopted Heron flat combustion chambers with dished pistons in the production V12, which improved mixture burning and would be easier to tune for upcoming emissions regulations. These changes dramatically reduced the engine's complexity, weight, and size, as well as mechanical noise compared to Baily's race-bred quad-cam. The trade-off was some loss of high RPM breathing and outright power. The Street V12 used longer, narrower inlet ports that favoured low and mid-range torque at the expense of top-end punch. To compensate, the team increased displacement to 5.3 litres, 5,343 cubic centimetres, in the production version, which, along with the milder cams, delivered strong torque for Jaguar's heavy luxury cars. The cam drive was via simple duplex chain, and valve spring pressures were kept lower to reduce valve train noise and wear. Consequently, the red line dropped to about 6,500 RPM from the racing engine's 7,500 to 8,000 RPM potential. Despite these civilizing changes, the road-going V12 was very much a direct descendant of Claude Baily's prototype. It even carried over lessons from XJ13 development, such as the Lucas Opus electronic ignition, installed from the start on the production engines, and the general alloy construction with wet iron liners. Jaguar engineers openly acknowledged that many of the lessons learned in the development of the racing engine were used in Jaguar's production V12 that followed. The result was one of the most refined and celebrated engines of its era. The Jaguar single overhead cam V12 produced around 272 bhp in early form, and was so smooth that Jaguar famously balanced a coin on the engine while it idled. This engine powered Jaguar's flagship saloons, XJ12, and sports cars, E-Type and later XJS, for 25 years, 1971 to 1996, becoming the world's first mass-produced 12-cylinder in a post-war road car and an icon of 1970s to 1980s luxury performance. None of that would have been possible without Baily's 2 decades of groundwork on the V12 concept. Collaboration with Jaguar's engineering legends. Throughout his career at Jaguar, Claude Baily worked closely with some of the auto industry's most renowned engineers and earned their respect as an equal. In the 1940s, he was part of the Small Brains Trust, along with Lyons, Haynes, Hassan and Westlake, that conceived Jaguar's twin-cam engine family. Haynes was technically Baily's superior as chief engineer, but by all accounts the two had a symbiotic partnership. Haynes trusted Baily to concentrate on engine design, while he oversaw broader engineering. In fact, Claude Baily was Haynes's deputy and concentrated on engine work, as one Jaguar apprentice of the time recalled. Baily's ability to turn high-level ideas into detailed, workable designs made him an invaluable lieutenant to Haynes. Baily also had a long association with Wally Hassan. They first worked together on the XK engine during the war. Hassan had a hand in the early XK development before leaving to build Coventry Climax engines. When Jaguar acquired Coventry Climax in the 1960s, Hassan rejoined Jaguar and teamed up with Baily again to push the V12 project to completion. The mutual respect between these two veteran engine designers resulted in a remarkably well-integrated team. Hassan later credited the groundwork laid by Baily as crucial to Jaguar's V12 success. Harry Mundy, another Coventry Climax alumnus and co-designer of the famed Climax FW series, also joined Jaguar and collaborated with Baily on refining the V12. Mundy focused on cylinder head development and fuel systems, complementing Baily's deep knowledge of the original design. Under Haynes's leadership, this trio, Baily, Hassan, Mundy, formed a powerhouse of experience. One could say Jaguar had 3 generations of engine expertise working in concert, Baily representing the original Jaguar ethos from the 1940s, Hassan the Le Mans, proven developer of the 1950s, and Mundy, the modern overhead cam specialist of the 1960s. Additionally, Baily interfaced with outside specialists like Harry Westlake, who had been instrumental in Jaguar's combustion chamber designs. Westlake was brought in to fine-tune the V12's head flow characteristics, just as he had done for the XK, reflecting Baily's openness to expert input to achieve the best result. On the XJ13 project, Baily worked alongside chassis designers like Derek White and aerodynamicist Malcolm Sayer. Though his domain was the engine, he understood the bigger picture of how the powertrain had to integrate with the car. Colleagues recall that Baily was a pragmatist in meetings. He kept the discussions grounded in what could be engineered and manufactured, providing a steady counterbalance to more visionary thinkers like Sayer or even lions. In short, Baily was the glue in Jaguar's engineering team, a collaborative engineer who could translate vision into metal. Personality, reputation, and legacy. In person, Claude Baily was known as a modest, methodical engineer who shunned the spotlight. While figures like Sir William Lyons or test driver Norman Dewis became the public faces of Jaguar's success, Baily remained a behind-the-scenes hero. One Jaguar historian aptly dubbed him a forgotten engineer of the marque. He was content to let the cars and their performance speak for his work. Within Jaguar, however, Baily earned immense respect for his quiet competence. Former apprentices and engineers who passed through the Coventry factory in the 1950s and 60s remember him as a disciplined leader and a teacher. He had a penchant for detail, evidenced by the meticulous engine development logs and memos he left behind, but also the foresight to pursue daring ideas like a V12 when they were far from the automotive mainstream. Baily's legacy at Jaguar is profound. He spent over 2 decades as the company's chief engine designer, during which Jaguar produced only 2 fundamental engine families, the XK Twin-Cam 6 and the V12, and Claude Baily played a key role in both. The XK engine not only powered Jaguar's early road cars and Le Mans winners, but also remained in production, in various forms, up to 1992. A longevity that few engines can match, and a testament to the soundness of its design. Likewise, the Jaguar V12, launched in 1971, became a defining element of the brand's identity for a quarter century. It was one of the world's premier luxury performance engines of the 1970s and 80s, known for its uncanny smoothness and soaring power. Decades later, in 1988, a racing version of that V12 finally achieved what Baily originally intended, victory at Le Mans, as the Jaguar XJR9, powered by a 7.0-litre derivation of the same V12 family, won the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Sadly, Baily had passed away in February 1988 at the age of 85, just months before that triumph. But the moment served as a fitting posthumous tribute to his life's work. In Jaguar's lore, Claude Baily is often overshadowed by more famous names. Yet those who know the company's history regard him as the unsung hero of Jaguar engineering. He combined the creativity to dream up advanced engines with the practical skills to develop them into reliable machines. By all accounts a congenial team player, he bridged the gap between Jaguar's founding generation and the newer engineers who followed. His personal notebooks and technical drawings, preserved by Jaguar archives and enthusiasts, continue to offer insight into how Jaguar achieved engineering excellence. In summary, Claude Baily's contributions were both technical and organizational. He defined Jaguar's engine program for the mid-20th century, mentored a generation of engineers, and left a legacy of innovation that still echoes whenever a classic XK-powered or V12 Jaguar roars to life. Jaguar's behind-the-scenes engineering success owes much to Claude Baily, a man whose story deserves to be told alongside the greats of automotive history. Baily's career and contributions are documented in Jaguar's historical records and enthusiast research, including the Jaguar Daimler Heritage Trust, engineering archives and memoirs, and analyses by Jaguar historians. These sources provide detailed insight into Baily's role in developing the XK engine and the quad-cam V12, as well as testimony from colleagues about his leadership and character. His technical legacy is further evidenced by the continued relevance of his engine designs in Jaguar's racing and production achievements. This has been a production by Curious Jag. Please like and subscribe.